All right, so let's see how we can add a form to a page using Bootstrap. Here we have an example of what the form is going to look like here on the right hand side. This is a very common layout of web applications, especially on mobile, smaller tablets, smaller screens where you have a left hand side, 1/3, 2/3 split, uh, and um, and the left-hand side serves as a kind of like a navigation mechanism that allows you to select various items. And then on the right-hand side, you kind of have like a details version, a details view of what you select on the left-hand side. So let's focus on being able to create this detail view that allows you to edit content. So to do that, we're gonna um, show you how to do it by replacing this static content on the right hand side with these form that shows up here. So it's using Bootstrap. That's fairly easy. So first of all, let's start off with a page that already implements this, and let's copy that. And I think it's this one, list group. I'm going to copy that, and we're going to call this form. So form is what implements this over here. So let's load it here. It's a copy of what we have here in our screen. So you will see it. We should see exactly the same thing. There we go. So we're going to replace this with a form. Let's go to Bootstrap, and we'll notice that Bootstrap has tons of really good examples of how we could implement this. And if you go to Bootstrap, get Bootstrap, and then CSS, right, if we click on forms, you'll see that they have several examples on how to implement forms. Okay, so let's just copy a couple of these snippets. And here we have a responsive form that we could start off with. So let's copy that. And let's scroll down to the right hand side content. There it is. We're going to replace this whole content. We're just going to remove this and paste that content we just copied from Bootstrap. So if we paste that and we refresh, notice that we get that form that we're looking for. Let's fix a couple things here. Notice that the file chooser doesn't seem to be styled like the other input field. So let's style that. So that's a file input. Where is it? Right here. It's file input. There it is. And what's really missing is the this class right here. That all the other input fields have it, but not this one. So let's copy it in there. There we go. We go and refresh. Notice that now the input field is nice. It's nice, stretches across the entire width of the page. This button it's kind of scrunched up to the left hand side. We can make it look a little better by adding perhaps some color. So instead of the default color, we can maybe choose one of the 5 or 6 standard colors that come with Bootstrap. Primary, I believe it's blue. Go and refresh. Okay, we have the blue. Also on small tablets, it's preferable to have input fields stretch the entire width of the page to improve the usability, so that you have a larger area for the user to interact with. So to do that, we can add another class that will expand the size of the button so that it behaves like a block. So it will take up the entire width of the page. So it's button block is the class. So let's refresh and see. Notice that now it takes up the entire width of the page. This checkbox, we can improve that a little bit by taking a look at is it buttons? I don't believe it's here. I think it's in. We go to components. I think we have under here somewhere. Button groups. Yeah, button groups are classes that allow you to combine input fields with other things, such as, for instance, combining checkboxes and radio buttons with other input fields. So, for instance, here's one where you have a checkbox with a box, or a checkbox or a radio button with a box with an input field. So maybe what we might want to do here is replace this with something that looks like this, right? Like this check, instead of this checkbox here, right? It could be something perhaps that looks more like this. So the checkbox, where is that? I think we can grab it from. There it is, radio, and there's checkbox. So let's copy this input right here, input group. There we go. And we can replace this checkbox right here. There we go. Okay. Let's see what that how that shows. If we go back and refresh, it's not quite right. We must have missed something out. So maybe this was an extra div that we didn't care for. There we go. I think the only thing that's missing here is that notice that we don't have the padding or the margin that we used to have. So we might want to inspect and see what we could do to fix that. That would be maybe perhaps this input group right here. It could be helped by having some additional, maybe a margin at the bottom with maybe 15 pixels. There, that looks nice. So what we could do is just maybe make a class or that adds this styling for all input groups. So perhaps at the top, we could say in the styles, or perhaps in a separate class, separate CSS file, preferably. We could say something like input group margin bottom 15 pixels. There you go. If we refresh, there we have it. No, that's what the form looks like right now. Instead of this input field over here, what we probably do is that since this is a checkbox, typically you might want to have a label as opposed to an input field. So, for instance, this input field, perhaps we might want to give it a value, right? And maybe might have an actual text for that input field. Where it might say, maybe my single, right? And you can select the box whether you're single or not, and then say that maybe that this is read only because you're not meant to change the value, perhaps, right? That you're not supposed to type on it, but it's just served as a label for this checkbox. So yeah, so there you have it. This was an example of using Bootstrap to add a form in a page that has been split in a 1/3, 2/3 layout.